Hey everybody, it's New. We're here with a two-part perception versus reality series on breach farming. Everything that entails breach farming in the current state of the game, which includes the arduous process of setting up all those maps with the towers, with the precursors like these, quantity focused, and that is going to be the focus of part one. So today I'm going to be running 50 maps. I got 50 Waystones in here, and I'll show you the atlas in a minute. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the process of getting those towers unlocked around a new biome, a new area. Hopefully, a lot of RNG involved here, but hopefully it will produce some really nice maps, some 100% quant plus maps ready to go for the second half, the part 2 video, which will be coming out at a future date, of course, in which case we'll be running all those crazy juicy breach maps. But I don't want to just prep maps and not worry about it otherwise. Of course I want to farm currency, and then that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to see how much currency we can get with this overarching breach strategy. These perception versus reality videos is something I started in PoE1. A lot of you guys liked it a lot. Usually what I do here is I'm taking a strategy that maybe is really well known in the community, might have some controversy about it. Maybe there's some things about it that I do a little differently that is not really part of the norm, or maybe it's a strat that's totally under the radar that people aren't doing. It could be any one of those things, and this definitely fits within that rubric. I think this is still a great strategy, and there is definitely a major curveball being thrown at us right now. If you take a look at the currency exchange, it would seem this might be a really awful time to try and target farm currency, with all the bubblegum currency, including even exalted orbs, being worth so little at this time. Chaos orbs and divines still worth quite a bit, but a lot of things have really fallen behind in value. A lot of people are switching to ritual, maybe farming Trial of Sechemus, bossing, all that stuff, and a lot of people have honestly just kind of left breach in the dust. And that's also evidenced by the fact that the breach stones themselves have honestly gone up in value. They're almost worth a full divine apiece now. So I am getting on the breach train. I think this is one of those times where we're kind of in a valley on breach, and we're going to begin the steep incline out, because you can actually target farm raw divines doing breach. We're going to see more of that in the second video. Now the first video, the main focus of this will be target farming the towers, and then also delirium splinters. Now I have already made videos on this. I've made 4 separate videos on how I approach breach farming. One of them was for citadels. Those would be waystones like these, huge waystone drop chance. Another ones would be breach, or rather delirium splinters, target farming with high-delirious maps that drop automatically. How do they drop? They drop automatically through this atlas notable right here. Okay, and I guess since I'm showing the atlas, we begin the setup here. You can see the regular atlas here. I haven't really adjusted anything on here in a long time. I just go ahead and leave local knowledge in. I'm too lazy to mess with it. A lot of breach or a lot of breach farming stuff over here. Everyone seems to take these 3, 1, 2, 3, and a lot of people will take grasping hands last, or maybe sustained siege. My character seems to be strong enough. I think I actually get extra value for having a soul eater modifier on every monster. Cannot be stolen with a headhunter, but should provide extra quantity rarity boost, because every single modifier that's on a monster counts. Even things like essence monsters and bestiary from PoE1 should count to that end. I'm a little bit of a, fingers crossed on that, but I think that's probably the case. Might be doing some tier 16 maps on boss maps, especially for area level 82, chance to drop level 20 gems. Nothing else really seemed to matter. I got a big bomb expedition thing here if it spawns. I will do ritual if it spawns. We'll see what happens, but we're primarily just going to keep track of the currency that's reliable here, in which case, it's going to be Simulacrum splinters, and it's going to be, well, breach splinters, as well as some raw currency that we're going to keep. And I do have, some halfway decent Magic Find maps here, because in the process of farming or setting up breach maps, of course you're going to run into towers. You're going to put the precursor in the tower. It's going to put quantity and breaches on the waystones or on the maps. And then as you continue moving forward, sometimes you're just going to be forced to run a breach map. It'll have like a low amount of quantity, but this is kind of still part of the prep process. So these maps over here on the right are sort of the lower tier, mid-tier MF maps. These maps here are going to be for maps that don't even have a breach on them, just farming Simulacrum splinters, including towers or even hideouts potentially. And then I don't really plan to run any more than 2 citadels in 50 maps. I probably could. I think there are like 3 that are near access, but You know, I do want to count that stuff because it does count in the pursuit of opening the atlas, but I don't want to get too carried away, so we're only going to count 2 citadels and whatever crisis fragments that drop from them. Now for the precursor tablets, we do have a couple of specialized ones here in the event that I get a really juicy setup with towers and I already kind of unlock all the breaches on the map or those ranges. Occasionally I will use one like this, which is essentially a high quantity precursor. Irradiates the monsters, doesn't matter, but it also has a terrific suffix of rare monsters having a chance to have an additional modifier. That's extremely powerful. Otherwise, these breach precursors, they are fairly high quant, basically accept any quant roll, at least if it has a decent suffix, chance to spawn an additional breach or density or something like that. Anything with a high quant roll I will keep regardless of what's there because it's adding breaches on the map. I don't really care that much about the implicit. I don't pay too much attention to it anymore. Now you might be wondering what these maps cost. They are basically around 5x a piece in total. You could argue they cost a little bit extra in the event that I did paranoia anoint a few of these, but essentially what happened here is I'm trying to roll maps for really high tier stuff, which would be maps like these, which we're not going to see today. These are some really good maps right here, which we're going to see later on in part 2. These are the lesser maps. They sometimes paranoia anoint hoping for something good and it just kind of bricks into something not so great. And then a lot of these maps don't really even have anoints or aren't even delirious. And they just got like 1 or maybe 2 decent magic find rolls. And they're kind of mid-tier stuff. So totally able to sustain the precursors, able to sustain these Waystones, no problem at all. I do throw, you know, some bubblegum currency into it, exalt slam them, occasionally chaos orb some of these, but I'm not really chaos orbing these maps here. I'm chaos orbing these over here. That's how they result in something much better. In some cases, some maps get lost and brick down into lesser value. In some cases, they brick up into higher value. And I already did a Waystone video, which will be linked in the description, that showcases what that process was. Essentially, in the end, I discovered I was spending around 5x per Waystone for the lesser tier stuff, which is what we're working with today. And then roughly 25x per Waystone on the higher tier stuff. Now those numbers will be fluctuating a bit because the Divine Orb to Exalt ratio and certain things have shuffled around a lot. But my sustain has also improved, so I think all things being equal, that's going to hold fairly true. So those are the sort of investment costs that we're going to go by on this. Let's go over to the Atlas real quick. All right, now I actually have opened the screen here on a really fantastic spot with a bunch of towers. I'm actually not going to do this spot. The funny thing is, I got really excited when I saw these towers to do this, but look at this terrain. Absolutely abysmally awful. Just got completely wrecked by water on both sides of mountains. There's virtually no Waystones anywhere nearby. So I'm almost just going to completely abandon this area, actually. And that's going to be better for this video anyway, because it would be probably nicer for you guys if I just went into some area blind and we just see what happens. I got a pretty decent setup looking over here. We got a citadel. So I think what I'm going to do for this video is we're just kind of going to focus on areas like maybe as far right as over here, maybe a little bit down here. This looks like a decent spot if I can get here in 50 maps. And then my immediate focus is probably going to be over here. And then if I got a few maps left over, I might focus a little over here, a little bit of spot there, depending on how many Waystones we have remaining. Because again, I'm only going to work with 50 to start with. And it may seem a little lopsided. I don't know exactly how it'll go, but I'm going to use 50 Waystones in the pursuit of setting up great breach maps. And then we're going to use 50 Waystones of high quality rolls in juicing breaches. And we're going to basically determine how much currency was spent versus earned on both of those 50. You can put them together if you want at the end. But that's how this is going to go. So I think this is going to surprise a lot of people on how much currency is made, whether it's part 1 or part 2. And that's in part because this character is moving pretty fast. And one of the real interesting things I'm going to do here is I'm going to run a very, very, very strict loot filter. One that's more strict than almost anyone's probably running. Most people. Essentially, I'm not even going to pick up Exalted Orbs. I'm not going to pick up Breach Splinters unless there's a 3 or more. I'm not going to pick up I am actually going to pick up Simulacrum Splinters in this case because I'm target farming them specifically. I've tweaked this filter temporarily so that I will see Simulacrum Splinters, because it doesn't really make sense to not run them. If you happen to be following filters, which is also linked in the description, you'll probably want to use this one, because this one will just show more stuff, including more bases stuff. But I'm going to see very little on the map. In fact, for the most part, the only thing I'm really going to pick up is a few Chaos Orbs and a bunch of Simulacrum Splinters in any given map. That's pretty much all I'm going to pick up. The occasional Divine Orb, and I don't know, if we see a level 20 gem, We're going to pick up Waystones and precursors, of course, but they're not going to be counted because those are just given, fully sustainable. So that's basically the whole wrap. I've kind of explained what I'm going to do for part 1 and 2 for you, but we'll revisit 2 again later. So we'll open up with the first map over here. Again, I think I'm going to go this way. Now you can see I'm kind of cut off here. But I appear to have the inside track going this way. So it looks like we're going to start something like this. I'm going to try to ignore maps that are really good, like Step. Try not to run that if possible. I think my first path will be something like this. Willow, double hidden grotto, and we'll probably hit some towers over here. We'll get in this area. So that is a map with a breach on it. And so we're going to run one of these. Okay, nothing crazy map. Got really cheap anoints on it. And of course, I will probably get to the Citadel at some point as well. This will be one of the 2 Citadels that I do. Occasional perfect Jeweler's Orb, yes. Hopefully. Of course, be tracking the time on here. I should start that. Alright, and we're off. This is a flurry. I guess we call this a flurry flicker monk. I've been making videos on this build as it's evolved constantly throughout the whole early access. And it can essentially Tempest Flurry around like a Gemling Legionnaire, or it can Flicker Strike also, and just kind of do both. The funny thing is, opening this up on Willow, this is an absolutely terrible Tempest Flurry layout. You get stuck on trees that don't even show up on the mini-map. There's trees everywhere. It's just like a heavily wooded area. But Flicker Strike can totally bypass all that, which makes this pairing really, really good. Jewels will also be something I pick up. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to handle that yet, but because, you know, I definitely sell a lot of jewels for, you know, half a divine, couple divines, depending on what rolls. There are certain rolls that are really good. There are certain combinations, certain corruptions that you hit that make it really good. It's kind of a giant mixed bag. Kind of hard to determine the real value before they sell. But I don't know. We'll revisit that later on when we get to the end. I mean, they made it so we don't need to think of flasks in that way anymore. Like, essentially every build has Mage Blood in it now. Except that the flasks aren't actually that powerful. Oh, we got first Divine Orb. Yeah, so we have charms that activate when they're, well, when they're needed. Not 100% of the time, I guess. So I guess it's different, yeah. And we don't have Quicksilver Flask, of course. Null and Divine, same time. That's the first Divine Orb today from a breach, I think. Actually, that wasn't from a breach, was it? The Annulment Orb was. Maybe. No, this version of the loot filter doesn't show white bases. Jeez, you got an annulment and an expedition logbook. Yo, I'm making freaking bank right now. What? 2 divines and a null and a logbook in the first quarter of this map? They're not even juicing. Level 82 breach rings can't be 1 div. Even scoured, no way.
Take the power that we deserve. We'll see about that.
91% shock effect. Check it out. see that?
Fury unleashed.
91% shock effect. Alright, well, I didn't proc the Waystone because that map was like 640 to begin with. I don't know what that was, but I like it. Okay, this tower. Now you can see as we get ready, this will probably be the highest quant map that I do today. That's not really considered one of the juiced map because I mean this is a good roll, but I still need to do it to get to this tower. If we look at this tower, I think we can see there's not a. I don't think there's a single map that's not already breached here. Nope, every single one is. So this is the perfect place, and I kind of did this by design. It's in the middle of all this other stuff. It'd be a perfect place to put this precursor. To give, obviously it's easy to get quant on these, and then over time, eventually you're going to get one like this where it's quant and rare monsters have additional chance to have a modifier. So I figured I would make good use of that, at least one of these, and this is going to be a terrific place. This might be the only map that doesn't have a breach. I guess this step is missing it, which is unfortunate. That step. One map, though, is not worth sacrificing this suffix, though. Imagine being undergeared going into this little hallway there. Ooh, that would have been scary. Yes. Bluff for the win. Number 7. He's electrocuted. No, he's frozen. No, he's electrocuted. He's electrocuted. Well. Well, well. You know, I think I'll just loot at the end. It's too much. It's too much. Oh, is there a boss on this map? Uh-oh. Intriguing. Oh. Flicker, though. Alright, this is in the running for best Mire breach of all time. I just want everybody to take note. Have you ever seen a Mire breach actually have this little dead space? I don't think I've ever seen it. Wait, I still got a lot more to cover actually up here. Maybe. Oh. 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 I could have done this whole round right here too, maybe. Actually, it's probably extend beyond. Actual good breach in Mire. We need to write that one in the science notebook. Evidence. It's like a endangered species has been spotted. Another... Great. I still can't get a perfect jeweler. I got divines for days. Yeah, ash versus ice is flicker pathing it. Alright guys, I have finished 50 maps. I feel like I completed basically a couple of areas. Let's just go ahead and look at them now. Just to recall, there was this giant tower cluster that I didn't really want to mess with because it's just not actually that good for the map. But down below, a little further, there was this whole thing. This was all in the fog before. I can rewind the tape to see that. So now I've gone down here and we've, you know, I was like 4 maps away from having this basically done. I need to do these 2 more towers. I'll probably do these on part 2, even just wasting great maps for it. Because I can make these, I can push these well over 100 in this case. But you can see we got a nice thing going on here with a lot of high capable, good, juiced up breach maps, nearly 100% quant. And there will be, some of them will be 100% quant in the end. And then also I did go ahead and do this. I did those 2 citadels. And this was also a cluster that was in the fog at the time. And there's some good stuff here too. Okay, we had to path around, but it unlocked all these towers. And so we got a nice thing going on here as well. So, I'm looking at least like 20 very good maps to do with good tile sets. And the remaining 30, maybe a little bit less. I think so far the best map I'm looking at here is this Sandspit at 108% quant. So looking forward to that one. But I'm going to try, when in part 2, to stick with these 2 zones overall. I did kind of cross over and do a little bit of this. So, I mean, I may just kind of finish out some of it in these areas around here. But yeah, basically this whole area, and then this whole area, and we got a little bit in between. I could definitely get 50 decent maps in there. So that'll be part 2. Dump tab is right here. I got to go through all this, and I'm not going to like liquidate things, but I'm going to kind of track how much of stuff I got. I got 12 divines. I feel kind of lucky there. Okay, now I show you the cleaned up version with the results. I'm going to go through real quick the actual value breakdown. I am not counting the Waystones worth anything because the Waystones as a base aren't worth anything to me in terms of like the investment cost. Same with the precursors. Seem to be able to sustain. I don't have all that many breach precursors here this time around, but I will get way more in the next 50 maps. I mean, there is still a decent number there. And also, people are going to ask the question, how much rarity did you have on gear? I had 211% rarity on gear, which is a nice number, a little bit more than you really need, but also could always have more and get a little bit extra out of it, but a nice number to hit, somewhere around 200%, I think. And the result is 12 divines. That's worth 12 divines. 8 in nulls is half a divine, roughly. We got about 0.1 divines worth of chance orbs, 1.4 divines in chaos orbs, 0.1 divines in greater jewelers, 5.2 divines in crisis fragments. So yeah, do the citadels, take them seriously. I did 2 of them. I got 3 in each one, and these are the cheap fragments too. 3.2 divines in simulacrums. So I made a conscious decision to keep simulacrum splinters on my filter. It's a lot of extra clicking for 3.2 divine. Maybe worth it, maybe not. I think it's definitely kind of borderline at this point, but it would feel kind of bad to run a bunch of 100%, 50 to 100% deli maps without even picking up the splinters. Anyway, logbooks got 1. It's about half a divine. Catalysts. Okay, I actually messed up here, and my loot filter was not set up properly. I should be picking up single adaptive catalysts. They are the ones for attributes. They're worth 5 chaos or 5x a piece. I didn't pick those up, so I lost some value here. These collectively are about 0.1 div. I only was picking up all the other ones that if they dropped in stacks of 10. Alright, and then breach splinters. This is a bit of a letdown. Breach splinters, I did only pick up like 3 or more as a drop. I didn't even get a full breach stone. It's like 0.6 divines worth of breach splinters. Kind of makes me feel like it's not even worth picking up or messing with. I don't know. Exactly. Chance bases. Alright, so I feel like we had decent luck here. 3 stellar amulets, 1 sapphire ring. That's about 1.5 div in bases total. Other. We got a list of other things. mainly because of essence of electricity. This is about 0.1 div worth of stuff in the other category. And uniques, so usually I end up with some valuable Pillar of the Cage God. It's common drop, and it's worth a lot with a few variable corruptions, like especially 12% increased weapon damage per 5 strength. But these are actually not really worth anything. What is worth something is this Corrupted Mask of the Stitched Demon. So for these fairly common, cheap uniques that are worth like nothing uncorrupted, some of them have really good corruptions. In this case, the life per second, you can go all the way up to 0.7. This is worth a div, okay, when you hit this corruption. So it's worth throwing a socket in there. Crazy enough, I wish I had armored this one because I hit crazy on the energy shield, but too bad. didn't do that. Oh well. So I am not counting the jewels, okay? I really didn't know what to do with this, but there's just no actual market for like unidentified magic or rare jewels. These are definitely valuable. In my mind, there's at least a full divine worth of value here, but I'm not going to count it worth anything because it's just too hard to really justify. And here it is, my trusty notepad document. All the breakdowns here. 50 maps, Delirium, Breach, Prep. We have a total investment of 0.8 divines. That's because it's really just about 5 exalts invested per map. Again, some of them were a little bit higher, but on the other side of things, they're going to be overestimated the investment on those two because some cheap maps break into something better sometimes. So that's all going to even out pretty close. The gross is 26.3, and we add it all up together. No applications, had to do it the hard way. But I'm not really picking up that much loot, I guess, which I guess is by design, huh? Net profit 25.5 div, divines per map 0.51, so half a divine per map, and 7.29 div per hour. I did run pretty fast, but I mean, I still counted the in-between maps time, and we got through this really fast. I mean, I was surprised to get like the whole thing done, 50 maps in 3.5 hours. Pretty cool. So I guess we hit the flow state, eh? We definitely hit the flow state on this one. So you know what? This hit. My opinion about these results, it's pretty on the nose. I feel like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. I didn't get like abnormally unlucky on any one particular area. At least because I got some value from the unique. Usually I get something from uniques. Maybe I got a little lucky with divines, but when I look at the annul and chance orb drops, I don't think it's that crazy either. So time is money. Doing the right filter is kind of important, but those are my results. I'm pretty happy with that because I know the number is going to be higher coming the next 50. So that's kind of the benchmark. So we're looking at these individually because it's like a separate farm. Delirium, Splinters, setting up Breach. Obviously, it's going to be a little less, or it should be, because we're setting things up. And then when we go ahead and blow through all the juiced maps, we should see some higher numbers. So we can look at these separately and then look at them together collectively. We'll figure out how much time it takes. But this is it for the results. Let's do a little quick gamble, though, before we go. A little quick gamble. What are we going to gamble? Double or nothing crisis fragments? Oh. Well, obviously, we're going to gamble these. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, I don't have any other things to corrupt as far as uniques. I didn't find any valuable ones. But let's go ahead and see what the jewels give, and then we'll chance these items here.
Time is of the essence.
Alright, for this, we can definitely give the magic ones. We'll take one quick pass on the magic ones to see if there's anything good. Basically, it's just like one rage on hit. Like this one, which I don't know about damage on war cries. And then for the green ones, we have movement speed or quiver explicits, which I don't see. And then the blue one, I mean, double crit is something. Yeah, this is probably some value here. And the mana on kill, 2% mana on kill in particular would be big. I don't see anything really noteworthy except maybe this jewel here. Skill duration, magnitude of shocks. Okay. Yeah, right. I kind of know about that one, but I don't think there was anything in here that's like adorned worthy. So we'll go ahead and just, this is what I kind of like to do. Slam them all up to max. I mean, this is really cheap process nowadays. Can't really tell if it's cleared with the border or not. And it might not be the smartest thing without checking, but, you know, just real quickly check to see if we got any crazy things. Rage on hit? No. Nah, okay. So the reason I'm corrupting these is because the implicits are actually in some ways even more valuable than a single explicit. If you hit, especially for all the attribute stackers or somebody needing resistances, can quite often be even better. I suppose I will gamble this one just for fun here. Let's see if I get, oh, I got 7 decks. That's pretty good. This one is, I'm pretty certain this will sell for a little bit. I don't really know what the price it at. I'll just put it at 3 div to start and then bring it down. For me, anything that I hit 5 mods or an implicit, I go ahead and just dump it in here. And then I will, you know, lower it over time. Usually I'm not going to get spammed, you know, something crazy. But yeah, that's just kind of how I do things, and it's gone over well. I've sold a lot of jewels. Look at this. That's probably something pretty good. I've sold a lot of jewels for like 1 to 3 div this way, and then I'll drop them down to exalt status after a while. Let's see about these. I can never get an Astramentus. Never, huh?
Yes.
And then I just sell these out. Actually, did I? Yeah, I did do that.
Time is of the essence.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, so that is it for this part 1 of a perception versus reality. I wonder if you guys are surprised to see a sort of 7 div an hour, if you were expecting more, if you were expecting less. Again, it's just prep. My goal would be to double that, at least, in the second half. But I don't know if it's going to happen. Remains to be seen. I've been kind of tracking some things, but it's a little bit up in the air. There's definitely a lot of RNG involved. And yet there's quite a bit of consistency too, because, you know, these items here are going to be pretty consistent. And if I pick up Simulacrum splinters or breach splinters, that's going to be consistent. We get a lot of uniques, get a lot of jewels, and, you know, the divine orb drop rate can definitely get a little weird. And then there's always a mirror. There's always a mirror that could drop, and this is probably one of the better strats to get one eventually. Well, as you could see earlier, we got a lot of really nice prepped up quantity precursor maps ready for the second half. And I'm very much looking forward to it. So I'm going to get this video out onto YouTube, and then I'll set up for, I'm already kind of in the process of actually setting up the next one. So it'll be coming out pretty soon. 50 maps first, 50 maps second. And hopefully that will be at least somewhat eye-opening for some of you guys. It's not the biggest sample size in the world, not 1,000 maps, but it's pretty good. We got to start somewhere. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time in the next video.